All right, it is Monday, June 16th, 2025 at 1:30, and this is the Health, Housing, Homelessness, and Human Services Committee with Supervisor Alejo and myself, Wendy Askew. We are calling our committee meeting to order. We are active on Zoom as well as from the Monterey room of the Government Center in Salinas, as well as from the District 4 Supervisor's office in Marina, as well as on Zoom. Are there any additions and corrections to our agenda today?
There are none.
All right, and Supervisor Alejo and myself are both present. We'll go ahead and start with public comment. Is there any public comment, anyone joining us for public comment for items that are within the purview of the committee but are not listed on the agenda this afternoon? If you could raise your hand so that we can call on you.
I'll be gentle, I'll pass.
Wow. All right.
All right, it doesn't look like there's anyone in chambers, and I'm not seeing any hands raised on Zoom. So we will close general public comment and move right along to our regular agenda, which starts with a presentation of the Rainbow Connections Mental Health Services Act MHSA Innovations Project. And we have Melanie Rhodes with Monterey County Behavioral Health Bureau present with us to present.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Supervisor Askew. With me today is Fabricio Chombo, our Assistant Bureau Chief with Behavioral Health, and also online is our subject matter expert regarding the Rainbow Connections Initiative, Casey Rodenbush, who I believe has been promoted to a panelist and will also be weighing in. She's out of the area today and was only available to connect via Zoom. So Rainbow Connections, I believe, there we go, we have the presentation up. So Rainbow Connections is a 5-year, $7.8 million MHSA innovation project that's led by County Behavioral Health and really is about a collaborative effort with many different system partners, and it's really designed to interconnect our youth serving systems and community-based organizations to cultivate an environment of support, inclusion, and belonging for LGBTQ plus youth across home, school, and community settings. So really integrate across those different settings. And the project goals are outlined here, really to empower youth to have that voice, to be able to express themselves, to develop leadership skills, to be able to provide input into the program and the offerings and the services that would be helpful to build capacity within the system, increase access to affirming care, and just really enhance within and across system collaboration with the different partners. And hopefully Casey will be able to come online and speak to really highlight the work that's being done by the different partners here in a minute, but it's really about creating a provider network to increase access to LGBTQ plus affirming care and to cultivate environment of belonging within and throughout our county system for youth, and really addressed some of the trauma that they've experienced by having not so great experiences. It's a collaboration with different partner groups here, and I really appreciate the Board of Supervisors recognizing all of the partners in behavioral health this month at the Board of Supervisors meeting with the resolution and all the partners being able to be there. You saw from the turnout that was present at that meeting just what a collaborative effort this is. And Casey?
All right, so this top row were our original, I was calling the OG providers, because they were the ones at behavioral health. We were working with them already when I first started envisioning this whole project. So Partners for Peace, Harmony at Home, and the Epicenter, we've had long-standing relationships with them. So I really started with them, and then the project started to grow over time. On the bottom row, so we have those top three They were in one way or another involved with behavioral health working in the school system, because that was really where I've spent a lot of, all of my time in behavioral health. Then we have You Will Rise, which is bringing, maybe on your way in, if you're there locally, you saw the beautiful mural that's now installed at the government center. And that was completed through the brilliance of You Will Rise. We have Dragonfly Forward, Gender Health Training Institute, and the Diversity Center. And I'll explain a little bit more about each of their roles here in the next few slides. So go ahead and advance. So behavioral health, we have a Rainbow Connections care team where I would love this part of the project because we're really starting to see the interconnection come alive. Where behavioral health, we have multiple programs within our child and adolescent system of care. So we have internally a care team that can provide specialized treatment and support and navigation for any of the services and supports that we have available through our provider network. So we do not only the individual therapy, we work with the families, we can provide family therapy. We can also link to our clinics, to our Monterey County clinics at the Laurel Family Practice, where if the youth needs hormones, then we can help link there. And then we are also providing some skills building groups in the schools. Next slide, please. Partners for Peace. This is a very integral component of the project because it's all about our family relationships. LGBTQ plus youth really can struggle in home environments. So Partners for Peace has not only support groups for our parents and caregivers, but also one-on-one support. We have 2 family support partners that are now available to not only work with families one-on-one, but also link them to support groups available through their organization, and then also to other parents, because we want to really develop a parent network. Because once we provide those human bridges, then we can let their connections strengthen over time. So it's not just dependent on the organizations, so that we can help grow this parent network throughout Monterey County and beyond. And what's also important is we have Spanish-speaking providers that can support the parents and caregivers in their native language and really connect with them on cultural stressors and oftentimes religious stressors that can get in the way of our families being able to embrace the youth for exactly who they are. They're also helping build our faith leader network, which is very important because our families do turn to their faith leaders for support and counsel when they're experiencing confusion or need support. So Partners for Peace is helping us. We're about to have our first faith leaders network breakfast, which will be wonderful, bring everybody together. Next slide, please. Harmony at Home, we started working with them in the schools years ago, behavioral health did, and they have a bullying prevention component to their programming. So they work with us in collaboration with the other providers, and we did a lot of work in PG this past school year, Pacific Road Unified School District. We did a parent learning series in partnership, so behavioral health and Harmony at Home is part of this project. We did a 4-part online learning series and helped parents navigate not only the complexities that social media presents, but also any type of bullying or cyberbullying that is bias-based. They also are helping us implement the Welcoming Schools program, which is a part of the Human Rights Campaign Foundation. And we're starting to see that part grow, which is really fun and amazing to see. These schools now are coming to us asking for this training, which is wonderful to see. They offer parent workshops, which I mentioned we do online, but we also do that on site. And then also they help with starting up anti-bullying clubs, and in collaboration with another one of our providers, helping start up the Gender Sexuality Alliance. So the Epicenter, one of the things that I realized after I got going was that because the Epicenter does focus on transitional age youth, that has been their focus since inception. So I needed to work to develop that component and then also look at the younger aged youth. So the Epicenter does partner with another one of our providers I'll introduce here on the next slide. But with Epicenter, if you're familiar with them, they're wonderful. They've been doing lots of work in our community I think they just had their 10-year anniversary. And they have a program called Our Gente, and they've been doing this work for a really long time, and I approached them a while ago to ask them to do this together with us, and it's just been wonderful because the project is really about interconnecting all of our resources so that we're not operating in silos. So the Epicenter, because they've been active and involved in the community for a really long time, they have developed and established networks. So we're building upon what has already existed. So we're not coming in to replace anything, we're just here to enhance and provide more resources. They also have a group called Queer Trans Youth Collective, which is an important piece because our queer youth really do need mentoring and support to be able to look to community to see themselves reflected in other people. So we have that available through the Queer Trans Youth Collective, and they've been an active part in our Rainbow Connections programming. They also provide a Youth Empowerment Council, which is our Zoom offering that can bring students not only in Monterey County together, but also San Benito County. And we've been able to offer a few different youth-led activities that they really want to see. And then they are part of our governance structure because we need to have this layer of the youth feedback. So the Youth Empowerment Council has been able to act in that capacity for us. Next slide, please. University Center, I'm really grateful to bring this provider in because as I mentioned in the previous slide, I was missing the elementary school age youth. So adding the Diversity Center on as a partner has helped us provide the support for the entire youth population and young adult population. They've been doing wonderfully in helping produce events. We did our Rainbow Connections Student Wellness Expo at the County Office of Education a little earlier last month, which was wonderful. They're also writing inclusive social emotional learning lesson plans that we're implementing in select school sites. So now that we have this project fully operational, we have districts coming in and requesting specific, so they call it SEL because we're in a world of acronyms. So inclusive SEL curriculum, so going into classrooms, providing lessons on gratitude and how do we enhance our awareness of gratitude in our lives so that if we're struggling, what can we be grateful for? And then they bring the inclusion piece in too. They work in collaboration with the Epicenter. So the way that I've designed this model is wherever we go together. So a provider is not ever working in isolation, that whatever we're doing particularly in a school setting, that the providers are working together as a team. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a big component. It is training. So the really important piece around this project is that we build capacity. And what that means is really providing as much training for people as possible. We have all of our providers that have been doing the trainings all along. We have the Family Acceptance Project. We have Dr. Jen Hastings, Dr. Sean John Matei, and Luke Pesha. So we're offering 3 trainings a month, and it's going well. I can tell you this is global. We now have people coming from all over the world to these trainings. So in any given training, there usually has been around 4 to 5 different countries coming into our trainings. So that's something that I had not anticipated when I started dreaming this up, but it's really a beautiful resource that we've been able to offer to the world because people can come in and get these types of trainings at no cost. So I just am so grateful for this piece. They're also helping the continuing education component so that the providers that do need the CE credits, they can get those credits. So if they're in Santa Cruz, San Benito, or Monterey County, all those providers can get their continuing education credits at no cost. I'll also mention that the trainings are recorded, so we have, oh my gosh, probably about 25 trainings up there at this point that are on digital, available for digital replay. They're all 3 hours in length, and I'll be working this summer on a school, I'm calling it the Rainbow Connections Masterclass Series for Educators and School-Based Providers. That's a very big title. But this is based on feedback that we can give our school-based providers a 1-hour dose of best practices once a month for the entire school year. And that will be replicated for the next school year and the next 2 following. And at that point, our funding will have sunsetted. Okay, now you will rise. So I'm in love with this component because it's so wonderful. We get to see this freedom of expression in our youth. They need that. They need they be able to be themselves, and creativity is just such a neutral way to go with this type of work. It's a wonderful entry point. Paul Richmond is my twin flame in this work. I just appreciate him so much, and we see things in a systems type of a way. So I'm so grateful for him. We're doing work all over the county thanks to the You Will Rise project. And then next slide. Okay, we're almost through, y'all. Thanks for hanging on. It's really complex. Okay, Dragonfly Forward. So at the heart of this project, what got it funded was this innovations idea, is that if we create a mechanism to interconnect all of our resources, will it work? And we applied it to an underserved population, those are the requirements. Dragonfly Forward is coming on. They're a national expert in school systems interconnection, interconnecting mental health into systems. So they're working with us to create a blueprint so that this blueprint can be installed in any school across, not only the nation, but across the whole world. I don't know how other people in other countries operate in their school systems, but I do know that all counties in our country have a school system. They have a juvenile justice system, they have a child welfare system, they have hospital systems, and they have communities. Because we're working in an ecosystem, so what we're developing is a way to essentially script the moves so that any school, this is specifically around working in the classroom and working with the school system, so it gets really, really technical. So for this group, I'll just say, when we're done, we're gonna have a document that's published that can be picked up and installed at any school across the country. So next slide, please. Okay, so the evolution. We were approved, so I would first off want to say thank you, Board of Supervisors, so much. I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without the approval from y'all. Every single contract that has come through, you have all approved. So I believe you when you say you stand behind this project because you've approved every layer of it along the way. So once we got y'all's green light to say yes, you can implement this project. It took a while. We finally got our first activity going in October with the Epicenter. They hired their Rainbow Connections Wellness and Outreach and Engagement Coordinator. Then in January, Family Acceptance Project began. I really believe that this is in the roots, getting into the root system. Our youth is working within the family system. So we got that going. Then in March, Partners for Peace hired their family support partner. This is in 2024. July, we've had about 18 people trained in welcoming schools. So we have 18 trainers that can go and facilitate welcoming schools. September 2024, we brought Dragonfly Forward in, and going into the next calendar year, this year, Diversity Center begins. And then we brought in Paul Richmond with Art Makes Us, and that's where you see You Will Rise as a component of Arts Makes Us. And then March, we added another bullying prevention coach. We also added another family support partner so that we can provide services far and wide in Monterey County. And then April 2025, our training program with Gender Health Institute officially began. And if I went on, I would fill up another 3 slides about what's happened between now, April 2025 and now. It just keeps getting bigger and better. So I think this might be the last slide here. I just wanted to let everybody know there's a QR code if you wanted to look up on our link tree. We're in the process right now of developing the website. I anticipate that will be ready by August. That's our official soft launch date. So there's a lot there. If anyone has questions or feedback, I would love to hear.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much,
Great job.
Casey. If I'll pass it back to whoever we have presenting. Okay, great, thank you. Is there more to present?
No, I was just thanking Casey for weighing
Oh.
in and explaining all of that. She did a great job, of course, and this is her passion project and her heart work, so I'm glad she was able to join us today.
Yeah, thank you again, Casey, and thank you, Melanie, too, for just being, I know you stepped in midway through as Director of Behavioral Health midway through the process, but we really appreciate, I think having vision and having leadership that's willing to embrace vision really does allow for projects like these to move forward, so thanks to you. And thank you also to the Behavioral Health Commission that I know takes a lot of pride in the youth, how our MHSA projects get pushed forward to the full board for approval as well. I'll take it first to our committee, Supervisor Alejo for comments or questions, and then we'll bring it out for public comment.
No, I think Casey did a great presentation. I want to thank the Behavioral Health Bureau for supporting this work to be able to take place to serve our young people with this particular programming. Casey, just a question I have, how many youth are we reaching with these programs? I know it's growing and you've done a lot of work in trying to amplify these programs, but just like for the public, how many youth are we serving through these programs, and how many more do we expect to reach in the next, when all these programs are fully operational?
So I would say to that, right now we have, because of all those different providers, we're in the process of preparing our annual report for 24-25. Because of this past, up until now, basically been building this multi-dimensional project. I can say within behavioral health, we're serving about 12 youth directly with our treatment, which is really involved, so multi-layered intensive treatment where that's needed. And then when we get broader into the number of youth that each provider has been able to impact, I'll have your numbers for you within about a month or a month and a half. So if I tried to estimate, I don't think I'd do it justice.
Okay. All right. No, I really appreciate all the work, and thank you for the comprehensive presentation. And it really shows that a lot has happened in a short amount of time, which I really, I think, appreciated, that we're doing these programs that really could have a great benefit for our young people throughout Monterey County, especially the bilingual component, as you rightly say, with some of our Latino families, and how some of these challenges intersect with religious beliefs. But having these kind of programs available and support for parents, hopefully we're better serving our families to deal with some of these complexities within some of the norms we have within our bilingual Latino community. So I know it's really, can't stress it enough. I think that these really help families confront some of the challenges that they face every day in our county. So thank you for that.
Yes, you're welcome. And you know, it's wonderful to see, they just did they had to reschedule, but they're doing a parent recognition ceremony for our parents that have been involved in the Partners for Peace component. And it really is beautiful to see, because it's just about meeting people where they're at. You know, we don't need to go in and be any like judgmental about what people believe or what their, you know, what that mindset is. It's more about how do we support you wherever you're at.
Great. Awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just comment, I had a chance to sit actually with some of the parents that have been participating in some of the early supports at a program at the EBET Center that I attended with my mom and my son and some of our family friends. And some of just the conversations that we had with the other families that were attending the event. And listening to it's hard to be a parent, and there are no guidebooks for how to do this. And so hearing my mom reflect on her experience raising my sisters and I, and then while we were chatting with some other parents, and their experiences raising their children, and how helpful it was for them to be able to have the space that was created to get support from other parents who were also raising children in the space that was created through programs that were available through through behavioral health and through, I don't know if it was specifically through Rainbow Connections at this point, but it was through the programs that are aligned with Rainbow Connections for students that were trying to navigate their own path and figure out where they fit. And so for the families to be able to have space to figure out how we can best support our children within the context of what are our values as a family, and how do we do that in ways that are aligned with our values while also supporting our children. And all of the complicated parts that go with being a family. I think it is so important, and the feedback that I was listening to was it was acknowledging how complicated it can be, and how it's not, there is no one, here's the book and here's how to do it, because every situation is different and every child is different and every parent is different and every family situation is different. And so being able to meet people where they are, it requires a lot of capacity embedded in community spaces where people feel comfortable and safe with the supports and structures available, so that when people are ready and where they're most comfortable, they can receive the support that they need in the way that they're looking to receive it. So I just want to say I acknowledge how complicated all of this has been, and how what a labor of love it's been to pull everyone together. But I do know that for so many of our children that are navigating their own way through this world, maybe not in the way that we've defined as a CIS experience, that one of the biggest risks for those children is choosing to not stay in this world with us. And so the one thing that we as parents and caregivers and people in this community that love these children and my fellow parents is, that if we can meet these kids where they're at, and we can meet our fellow parents where they're at, and say, hey, we're going to figure this out together and we're in this with you. If we can just find the path together to get through this period of life, we can come out the other side, and we can stay here. We can walk this path together. So my goal, and with, like I tell all my son's friends, we've got this, and we'll figure it out. And I'm here with you for whatever that experience ends up looking like. So thank you, Casey, and thank you to the entire behavioral health team. We're here with you on this. So let's open it up to public comment. If you're with us online and you're able to raise your hand, we can call on you for public comment. We do have a Q&A feature. I'm not really sure how we do that in public meetings, but I will just read. There were a couple Q&A comments. If you're with us and able to make comments, that's probably the easiest way to do this, but I will, just for the record, there are a couple anonymous comments. One of them states that, I'm sorry, but we do not appreciate any of you indoctrinating our children. These issues need to be discussed in the home with their parents, not our schools. Etc. What a shame. Stop this nonsense. Please stay out of parental rights. Another comment reads that this is not all about you brainwashing our children. You should all be sued. And a third comment states that this is so sick and evil. Our children are not yours. So we'll go ahead.
I thank you so much. I appreciate you allowing me in to speak. And I'm very sorry that these things are not announced more in advance, so that people who do not agree with what you all agree and that you are all trying to sell to this community, frankly, I'm tired of it. I am a grandmother. I'm 61 years old. Monterey County Child Protective Services kidnapped my infant grandson from the hospital and committed fraud upon the court. The social worker was Linda Castillo. She was fired for lying in a case in 2021. My case was 2012. I'm coming after Monterey County. I am going to sue you guys for civil rights violations, and I'm going to get back into the nature of children. You guys are working in the schools for the Board of Supervisors. You have no business doing this to our children or about our children. That's our job. That's a parental right. I'm tired of these schools sharing all the LGBT stuff. That was never in schools when I was young. Never. Never. You guys are part of the problem in the insanity in our youth, and they're so confused, and you guys are part of that problem. I want you to read a story about Jeff Younger, out of Texas. He had 2 twin boys. The mother is mentally ill, turned to be a lesbian after she was married to their father for several years. She divorced him, became a lesbian, then decided to tell the kid's father that one of the boys wanted to become a girl. No, the little boy didn't want to become a girl. The mother was doing that to make him want to be a girl. She was painting his fingernails.
Thank you for your comment. Your time's up.
Thank you fucking liar.
Thank you for your comment. We appreciate you joining our meeting today.
You're
Is
sick.
there any other
You're
public
sick.
comment?
Hi, Wes White, Salinas, Monterey County Homeless Unit, that's how I always started. But I also have a YouTube channel, John Doe 13K. I go to a lot of events, and I found that, you know, I really appreciate this presentation. I know it saves lives. I know it improves lives. I have a lot of admiration and respect for so many, like Youth for Action, for one thing. They're also with the Leadership Council, or at least they used to be. But the most intelligent beings I've come across, and you know, respectful, mindful, always trying to broaden that umbrella. It's just been a joy and a privilege to be around such wonderful people. There's nothing wrong with this. In fact, when I was going to school, they were in school. What are we talking about? They were our friends. So it's like there's no reason to try to attack. You know, I think about Carrillo College when their flag got burned, other buildings get their windows smashed. What she's talking about is violence. And that's not what these folks are about. That's not what any of these programs are about. It's about love and inclusivity and saving lives. You know, I mean, so I just appreciate you guys.
The additional Q&A comments are what exactly is the $5 million going to be used for to collaborate, question mark. Another one is that no question. Just want to say thank you so much to the board and Rainbow Connections for the amazing work you are doing. Children deserve the right and ability to be themselves, and this is very important work. And then another one says you are so mentally sick. And a final comment says that says the man who thinks housing is a constitutional right, they were not in our schools. All right, with that one, so we'll say thank you again, Casey, to Melanie, to the entire team at Behavioral Health that's worked so hard to put this together, and to all partners. Please keep inviting us to the events so that we can join and show our support in all of the ways that are physical and tangible to be present. But keep up the good work, and we'll look forward to hearing updates and getting some data about deliverables and outcomes. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item number 2, which is to receive a verbal presentation on the Monterey County Sheriff's Office Reentry Center. And it sounds like we have Charles DaSilva from the Sheriff's Office with us today.
All right, good afternoon, and thank you to Supervisor Alejo and Supervisor Askew, Roxanne Wilson, and the committee. Appreciate you guys having me here today. It's an exciting time for me and I believe for our staff at the Monterey County Sheriff's Office, particularly the Monterey County Jail. My name is Charles DaSilva, and again, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the Director of Programs at the Monterey County Jail, and I'm excited to be here because this is an opportunity to share and educate our community about the new Reentry Resource Center. I believe that the Monterey County Reentry Resource Center is going to be an important milestone for this community. It's going to finally get us a journey towards rehabilitation and reintegration. I believe that the center is going to bring a place of hope, support, and opportunity for our men and women who are incarcerated at the facility. The idea around this goes back about 11 years. I started at the jail 11 years ago, and it's always been kind of a dream and a passion of mine to incorporate all of our community and the folks in our community who are doing their individual work out there to incorporate and bring everyone together, working with us to make sure that we have a bridge to the outside, to make sure we're connecting these people to resources and support systems. For me, it's important to centralize services for our men and women when they're coming out, and for those who are on the outside who need services, who are outside alone, homeless, who need a place to go for some kind of support or just an hour of just sitting down in a safe place. And that's what the center is going to provide. We're partnering with behavioral health, we're community-based organizations, our justice involved, and county and state departments that hopefully, all together we can make some kind of a difference in our community. Services that are going to be offered there, probably mental health, substance abuse treatment, it's obviously resources, bringing them in to meet with these folks on an individual basis, to connect them to services on the outside, whether it's a program that's on the outside that we can get them to, or a housing program. I know I've been bugging Ms. Wilson's here for a while, and she's the one that kind of guided me here to kind of just to put our resources in place and to have people understand why we're doing this. And so housing support, public benefits, teaching them how to just, go and get their DMV information or just their social security information. So we're starting on the inside. We go out 90 days. We look at who's discharging within 90 days, and then our team meets with these folks on the inside. We set up a reentry plan with them, and then we connect them to services based on their needs, based on what they really need. As you know, when they come in, some of them are kind of at the bottom. They don't know, they don't have family to go to, or the family has disowned them, or they don't have any connections. So our job is to try to connect them. And some of them, while they're in there, they're doing their programs, and they have access to their family because they're now showing their family, hey, I can talk to you now, I understand what my problem is. And so a lot of those things do change, those needs change. So we do a pre and post assessment on them. And so you'll notice that the post assessment, things start changing. No longer do they need a place to stay, now they just need housing, or they need, they just need a job, or they need a resource to go and help with their addiction or anything like that. So it's a center that's going to, I think, bring a lot of people together and families. At that center, we are going to have a centralized area for the children. Some of these men and women who have children can't afford babysitting while they're going out and doing, their work or meeting their needs or getting some help. And so we'll have a center there for them so they can be there with their family, with their parent, so they don't have to go and pay for a service or something. So it'll be a little section there for them to hang out with their family and also be a part of it, to understand, how they can help as well and how we can help the children as well, to help their parents become better parents, right? And successful parents. That's what we want. We want successful parents in our community. So for me, many of our clients, they face barriers: employment, housing, healthcare, mental health. And then without these supports, obviously there's a risk of reoffending again. And those people, it increases. And so that's why, thinking about this center, I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to bring everyone together, not work in silos, and work together as a team, as a community. It's successful. For me, this is going to be a successful reintegration for a safer community. It's a model that's going to create stability, which in lieu will reduce recidivism, and then everyone in the community benefits when these individuals thrive. I know that it could be one of my neighbors, and I'd rather have a neighbor who's going to be successful than someone who's always going to be in and out of jail. For me, that's important, and to help them grow while they're inside, and then connect them to the outside. Obviously, it's a hard process, and so to at least guide them and to give them the resources, meet them halfway, I think is at least what we can do. Help them with job readiness and placement. We do meet with them on an individual basis, and we do work with them on the inside. So this organization, this building will provide that. We'll have opportunities at computers to write resumes, type in the resumes, to work on a computer if they don't have one at home, to come in and just, spend some time there to get, some of these guys and gals don't understand how to work with computers, so it'd be a perfect opportunity to teach them and show them how to, surf the web and things like that. Stable housing equals better outcomes. I've been working with Ms. Wilson here, and and so if we can kind of open up that door to help them to understand what's out there. Some of these men and women don't understand what's out there. They have no idea what the resources are, and so this will be a place to educate them, to help them, find that helping person on the outside. Key benefits for me, it's connecting them to mental health services, substance use support, and general medical care. We're trying to connect with our local folks, and with behavioral health, we already work in tandem with them, so they know who we're working with and who we're dealing with. And so it's just kind of tightening the belt a little bit more and understanding what better services we can create. They come in within 14 days, behavioral health does, and they come and do assessments on them and making sure that we can connect them to behavioral health as well. Social services, we're working with social services as well and helping them out, understanding what programs are out there for them and their families. Again, personal case manager, this is where I think is a change at the jail with my staff, the program staff. I'm blessed with an amazing staff at the jail, and what they do is just incredible. They meet with these folks, sit with them, create a plan with them, they go over them. They actually give them the time of day to listen to their issues and what they have. And so to sit down with them, do a 15 to 20 minute, sometimes 30-minute interview with them about what they're going through and what they need is definitely a key thing to a successful discharge. So we customize reentry plans for each one of them. So not everyone, like the past presentation said, we're all different, and we come in different packages, so to speak, and so we have to treat everyone individually. And so to me, that's an important key that we're doing now. As they discharge, they have their own individual resources and packages that we create for them. And then support from the reentry, we're looking long-term reintegration. I don't just want to set them up with something that's just going to fail. I want to make sure that there's a connection there. And so having that resource center there is a long-term idea for me, that as they go out into the community, they have a safe place to come back to with a familiar face and that connection, so that they can feel that there's an opportunity there. If they do fail, they can still come back. Instead of going to jail, come to the center and come work with us. Come work with that person that worked with you who was on the inside. And I think that's an important thing, a different change in how we're doing things as well. Obviously with this comes, tracking. We want to start tracking our progress and refining the strategies that we're doing, looking at software, reentry software that's out there specific to just reentry, and how people are kind of tracking them, making sure that we're connecting with their providers or employment providers, housing environments, where they're going, so we kind of keep them in the loop so that our folks can go out to the community and meet with them out in the community as well. And then this also ensures accountability for us, and then a measurable impact, because this is, we are working with taxpayer dollars and grant money, and I think that's fiduciary, responsibility on our end. The grant money is key. We have to report to the state what we do, and so it's just a form of accountability to have those tracking systems in place. A path forward for me is continued collaboration. For me, that's critical. It's not just the Monterey County Jail, it's everybody, it's a community. And we're all working with the same folks, we're working with the same people. And to me, that's important. I think working together as a community, we're gonna have a better support network, and it's gonna assure more holistic care, I believe, for these men and women. And then commitment, to me, I'm a guy who's all about second chances. And I think some of us were given probably the wrong deck of cards and didn't have a couple aces in there, and so I think it's important that we restore dignity and hope in some of these men and women, and then help these individuals to build meaningful lives. And so for me, that's one of the key goals for this center. And again, deep gratitude to all of our partners, behavioral health, folks that we work with in making this happen. And then, if we can commit, we can shape a safer and stronger community with Monterey County. Again, today, we're laying a foundation for the future, and I think just a small modular is gonna be something big in our community. So again, we're about changing lives, at least that's what my program's about at the jail, and in creating a long-lasting impact on people. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation, the verbal presentation today. We appreciate having you here. I know keeping us updated about the status of the project was something that I was interested in staying abreast of. So I did have a couple of questions, but I'll pass it to Supervisor Alejo first to see if you had questions, and then I'll jump into mine.
No, I just appreciate having this presentation, because when we talk about public safety issues from the Sheriff's Department, it's often the jail, patrol, but we rarely hear about the support that we're providing for inmates. And I know I've seen some of the news coverage of some of the programs that help them even before they get out. And obviously, your services, it's imperative. The state had a major shift, right, with AB 109, inmate populations that would otherwise go to the California Department of Corrections, or many of them are now housed here locally. And certainly our goal is to not have them make the same mistakes they made previously, and you giving them that kind of support with the wide range of issues, it helps them keep that recidivism rate low, and hopefully get them back on the right track, and find those other opportunities that exist versus going in and out of our jail system. So I just want to emphasize how important this work is, and it sounds like you really have the passion and you believe in this. But for our public, this is also part of that critical public safety. So we're not having to spend public dollars housing them in a jail, or having our patrol having to respond to crimes. Let's get them back on the right track and not make the same mistake. And in the end, that benefits all of our communities, and it keeps us safer as well. So I just wanted to salute the work that you're doing, and the added programs and those opportunities to help them connect with resources that are available out in our communities. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. So I guess some of the questions that I have are related to the funding, the CalAIM dollars that are helping us move this initiative forward, and the way in which, I know one of the things that came up for us at the department heads retreat that we had, gosh, that must have been back in March, was opportunities to have our departments working more closely together on some of these initiatives. So I don't know if you could maybe share a little bit more about the funding and about the departments that are working, and sort of what the model for that collaborative working relationship is currently looking like.
Sure. So the CalAIM grant was Path 3 funding, and it was $5 million that we received. And that $5 million covered the modular and several positions that we have working, 2 deputies, a couple civilian staff or so, and then obviously the program itself, the software and things like that that go into creating this project. We're working collaboratively with behavioral health, with social services, with some nonprofits out in the organization. We are working with obviously our state partners with DHCS, and connecting with us and helping us kind of move this forward. And then we have what's called an ECM, an Enhanced Care Management focus as well, that comes with CalAIM, and we're looking at some of that funding going towards that as well. And that's someone who will help us take what we're doing on the inside and then continue those hopefully metrics or those resources on the outside, connecting them to the outside with medical and mental health and those specific areas. And so it's not, $5 million goes quite fast. So with that comes, we do have a biller that we're gonna be working with, so we can bill some of these services so that we can keep the program sustainable. And that's kind of the goal, is looking at other avenues to sustain this project in the future.
Great. And with the partnerships that are in place, I know just sort of similar to how the Rainbow Connections it takes sort of all the coordination to bring everyone together. Is that with weekly meetings, or maybe you could talk a little bit more about what the coordination, the structure of the coordination is working?
Sure.
Is it a team of folks that have been identified? And are there dedicated folks from social services who've been assigned? Is it a department head level, or do we have folks within eligibility, social workers?
It's a little bit of everything, and it started weekly, now we're at monthly, but we still connect with social services on a weekly basis, because our two deputies who are the case managers inside the jail work with social services, identifying those who are out 90 days who need Medi-Cal, and so they work with them. So there's different variety of different check-in points. I know we meet with behavioral health on a weekly basis. On MDT, we talk about those folks on a weekly basis. Every Tuesday we go to MDT and we talk. And so at the administrative level, probably once a month. And then there's different forums like these where we meet and we talk about some of these projects that we're doing, and we connect with each other. Like that's how Roxanne got me here. So working with Roxanne and folks like her to connect me to the community. So that's been my goal, is to start to reach out these past several months with the community to start educating these organizations, and that's why I'm here today to anyone who I'm soliciting myself to go out and to have more presentations out there so that we can connect the bridge to the Monterey County Jail.
Great, thank you. And so then with the number of people so it's 90 days post release, 90 days pre-release, the folks would then have eligibility to start working with the re-entry center to receive, to get hooked in with Medi-Cal, get hooked in with all the services. How many individuals do you foresee on a monthly basis having contact or receiving services through the re-entry center?
So our goal, and with our new chief, his goal is that anyone who goes through our 90-day program is to discharge through our re-entry center, not through the intake where they came in. So it's obviously volunteer-based, so we want to make sure that we connect these folks as soon as we can. So we have a 14-day assessment. We meet with them at intake. Some of those folks don't stay too long, right? They're there for 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
they leave, or some of them are 72 hours and they're gone, right? So it's those folks that we're looking at, what Supervisor Alejo's at the AB19ers and those guys that we're looking at, they're doing long-term, a little longer terms, and then those who actually want resources. So right now, we're working about 15 or so a month or so. It's been kind of that number. We're thinking it's going to increase here sooner because the word's going to get out here soon. But again, it's also ebbs and flows because we're looking at seasons. You know, in the jail, we work in seasons. You know, when it's the winter time, the numbers go up. Summertime is kind of slower. So it just depends on, again, how many people we have incarcerated and who wants to go through the program. But we are I don't want to say pushing. We are really going to these men and women saying, hey, this is probably a resource you want to take. We're advocating for them, and we're letting them know that you have these things in front of you if you want to utilize them. Again, I can't tell them what to do, but I can at least give them the opportunity and the resources in front of them.
Great. No, thank you so much. And I think, again, similar to our earlier presentation, it really comes down to having someone who believes strongly and is a champion, and who is sort of holding the commitment and holding the vision to get a program like this off the ground and up and running. And I know you've been that person really championing this vision and this program. So thank you for being here to present to us. I think having the oral presentation is fantastic. If you had a one-pager that had some more information and maybe a little bit of data, that would be great. I think it's one of the ways that we can then use some talking points and share information with potential partners, both in the community and with folks that I talk to people all day long. I know Luis is out in the community talking to folks all day long as well. And so that's a great way for us to be able to tell the story about what's happening locally. and you know, people start talking, and that's how things grow. So if you're able to share that with us, that would be great. And then also just, you know, to the degree that I'm sure you also have some internal documents around sort of the structure of how things are getting organized and who's getting served. I'm very interested in, you know, paying more attention and monitoring and learning more about how that all is working and where the gaps are. I know you're aware, but I sit also on the Central California Alliance for Health, and ensuring that the ECM process is working the way that we want it to, and that all of the folks who you're touching through reentry are many of those same folks who are utilizing our Medi-Cal system of care. So the better we can get them connected when you're providing services, the better our entire system is going to be able to provide them with the broad base of services that they need. So I think our interests are aligned for so many reasons and in so many ways. So definitely appreciate you being here in the presentation today.
Thank you.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to thank you very much, sir, for your dedication to law enforcement and to the people that had made poor choices and ended up in a jail cell. I experienced personally the jails as I am a former grand juror. And I was impressed with the jail when I toured the jail back when I was a grand juror. And as a mother of a child who was addicted to heroin for 13 years, she is now 2.5 years sober, and she's working for the Soledad prison system via Amity. And they're also really working hard on preventing re-entry. So she's giving back, you know, counseling for drugs so they don't, you know, re-enter and end up going back into the drugs. So I think that this is a very important program, and it's humane. Many of these inmates have never been treated humanely. Many have trauma from their childhood. And I think it's a very necessary program. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that there's programs being offered to people being released from incarceration. I think that's a big step in the right direction. You know, my question is, if folks would be provided with housing assistance, I think that's my big question. And then also, if there was any plans to hire folks with lived experience, because that would give, you know, people something that they could like look forward to as far as like possible job opportunities and way to give back. So thank you.
It's Lee Monterey County Homeless Union, West White. For this, I guess I want to give you a couple tips on like the Transformative Justice Center, if you're aware with them in Monterey, as well as Jacqueline Simon doing like the George Floyd, you know, trying to reimagine policing. And then, so I'm just wondering, do they have a piece of pie in this? You know, and like he said, the lead committee has a lot of, you know, people that have been in the system. So that would be a resource that we'd like to get a cut of funding. I mean, you know, if we're going to fight about contracts and paper and all this stuff. And then, of course, the big thing I worry about is the remainder. Who doesn't end up in these programs? Where are they going to end up? More than likely outside. And then they end up being my problem and your problem, and everybody don't want to talk about it. But there needs to be, like you're going to spend all this money for all these contracts for a handful of people, maybe a couple hundred or something, you know, in this time frame. And everyone who gets let out, we're going to spend all kinds of money getting rid of them. And that is like, you know, I mean, we need to be doing more of these kind of programs, no kind of sweeps, allowing people to have the affordable housing that they provided for themselves. So, so yeah, no, money.
Thank you for the presentation, very informative. I really appreciate all of the work, Charles, and yeah, definitely send us some more information, and I would love to read through some additional information, and keep us posted.
Thank you.
So we'll do item number 3, receive a presentation assessing the extent to which Monterey County ordinances and policies align with Governor Newsom's model ordinance for addressing encampments and provide direction as necessary. It's still you, Roxanne.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Roxanne Wilson, and I serve as the county's Homeless Services Director. Today I'll be presenting, as mentioned, an overview on how Governor Newsom's model ordinance on addressing encampments aligns with the county's current ordinances and policies. You'll note that the state also has a body called CalICH that makes recommendations on policies, and the governor had directed CalICH to further release another guidance on addressing encampments, so you will see throughout my presentations reference to the CalICH guidance as well. And of course, this is a timely and important conversation because I think all jurisdictions across the state of California face pressure to respond to unsheltered homelessness while balancing the legal mandates and providing humane care. So just a little bit of background. In the recent months, again, Governor Newsom's administration released a model ordinance intended to create guidance for local jurisdictions, but this started much earlier than that. Back in June of, it says 2024. What year are we? Oh, it was 2024. Sorry, I had a moment. The U.S. Supreme Court had ruled 6-3 that when and basically I cannot speak, a case that overturned Martin versus Boise, excuse me. And in July 2024, Governor Newsom ordered state agencies to clear homeless encampments on state land and encourage local jurisdictions to adopt encampment policies that align with the Caltrans policies, and that was through Executive Order N-124. Then in January 2025, Monterey County Board of Supervisors approved my office's encampment resolution policy, and during that time I had also disclosed that there is likelihood that the state was going to start tying a encampment resolution policy to our ability to receive homeless funding, in which we did see in the HAP 6 application. And then again in May 2025, Governor Newsom had released the model ordinance for cities and counties. So one of the core differences between all of the different documents that my office has reviewed is in the model ordinance. It does have many banning elements in which our county our county ordinance does not include. For example, it does state that in the governor's ordinance that there's bans on camping, sleeping, and the use of structures in certain public spaces, specifically near sensitive areas like schools, parks, and critical infrastructure. The county's ordinance is a little bit more broad than that. It does define that, we're talking about erecting tents or shelter for the purpose of sleeping, arranging bedding for the purpose of sleeping, or use of standing or parked vehicle for the purposes of sleeping. And then it further talks about no camping is allowed in any public space unless it's otherwise posted. And then we have the encampment resolution policy where we do talk about 500 feet from a preschool, daycare center, elementary school, or high school. So there is some alignment between all three, well, the two ordinances and the county policy, but again, it's not very clear when it comes down to sleeping. And then when it comes down to the service connections, I think that this is where our policy really does stand out. The model ordinance does talk about how every jurisdiction should make reasonable efforts to identify shelter or emergency shelter, navigation centers, or appropriate housing for people who are being displaced from encampments. CalICH also says that local jurisdiction should offer shelter before taking action on removing an encampment. And then there's no reference to that in the county's ordinance. However, in the encampment response or resolution policy, we do talk about how we should work with internal and external partners to ensure a range of supportive services are available to individuals who are voluntarily or involuntarily displaced from encampments. And since the Board of Supervisors had approved the policy, my office has been working closely with different departments and with the continuum of care for us to get all of the engines going and ensure that we have all of the resources readily available when we have knowledge that an encampment cleanup is gonna happen. And further, the model ordinance says that local jurisdiction should give a minimum of 48 hours before the action is taken. And Cal ICH's guidance does align with that 48 hours. The county's ordinance does not have any reference to that. However, the encampment policy gives an extra day. So we do 72 hours, not including weekends or holidays. And that was actually at the request of one of our constituents who had come to our first reading of the policy in this body. And the reason why we added that extra day and took away the weekends and holidays is because we also know that people need to have time to access those resources, and many programs are not open on the weekends or holidays. Another area that the county really does stand out, the model ordinance says that local jurisdictions should store belongings that are either left behind or that are left behind from individuals being displaced from encampments that have a apparent value of $50 or more, or has an apparent personal value. So we're talking about photographs, urns, things of that sort, for no less than 60 days. The county ordinance does not have any reference, but again, the county encampment resolution policy adds an extra 30 days to that storage and has very similar language to the model ordinance as far as how we value property. And I must state that even though it's 30 days more than the state's recommendation, it is in alignment with the city of Salinas's. So we do have some consistency. As we all know, there is nuance when it comes to invisible lines. And here's just a very long comparison of items that the county will not store versus the model ordinance. In general, it's pretty much in alignment. We're not looking at toxic sharps, chemicals. Actually, so much of this seems to be very much in alignment. It's almost as if they had our policy or something when they wrote this. So the final assessment is essentially the existing county ordinance combined with the adopted encampment resolution policy generally meet all of the components of the governor's model ordinance except for certain banning elements, particularly around structures and sleeping in public. The county offers a more human-centered approach through an additional 24 hours of notice that does not include weekends and holidays. We do have an additional 30 days of storage, and we also have different levels of interventions. So
obviously, we went through our process to adopt our policy that Roxanne presented, and that was before the governor released his model ordinance, which it was just good to be able to do the comparison. So thank you, Roxanne, for that analysis. But I think as Roxanne said, we were ahead of we're ahead of the game, ahead of the governor, and I think unless we see some issues, I don't think we don't need to adjust our ordinances. They're mostly aligned.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. I think ours is really solid, and I appreciate all the work that we did to get an ordinance put together, not knowing if we were going to get one from the state or not. I think so. This is good. I feel really good about where we're at. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Wendy. Tim Heaven, lead chair, CSU Leadership Council member, CSU California State Policy Advisory Board member. I just want to put out there, like every time I see these, camping ban rules, it's just like we're gonna. It's so dangerous to just say that we're gonna offer services, knowing damn well that we have no housing for these people. We don't have any shelter space that's available. Zero. And whenever I've done outreach the last 4 or 5 years, and I've not been, there's never a space for like one person available, let alone hundreds. And I really, really hope that we can start humanizing people more and really looking for ways that we can create safe spaces where people can be, because it does so much damage to people, their well-being, their mental health, when we sweep them around like they're trash. You know, instead of like these ordinances, they don't do anything to identify where people are gonna go. They're gonna either end up in jail or just chased around town to the different jurisdictions. It's insanity to keep doing the same thing, wasting taxpayer dollars and not really coming up with any real solutions. You know, like the most immediate solution is creating a safe space where people could be at and identifying that. And so I'm gonna keep coming to these meetings and mentioning it until hopefully something gets done. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you for all of your guidance and support on the getting the initial ordinance drafted.
I thank you. Once again, I don't know how my name came up on the screen because I chose to be anonymous, so I don't appreciate that. But with that said, my question is to the lady that was speaking, Hilda, I believe is her name. Why do we have 3 motels that were designed to house or help house the homeless people that are now all boarded up, fences all around them? That's our taxpayer dollars. Why were those 3 motels shut down when that was intended to alleviate part of the problem of them residing in Chinatown and other areas such as Creek Bridge, etc.? The other thing is, you know, the homeless, I have compassion for the homeless because we do know that in Monterey County, you cannot work at a McDonald's and afford a studio apartment. There really needs to be something done with, you know, having fair rent. So I know that that's an issue that's on the you know, that we're filing petitions to stop that. But, you know, with the homeless, part of the issue is I think people would be more willing to help if they weren't so flagrant. Many of the homeless are either addicted to drugs or they have mental health issues. You know, all the litter that we see everywhere on the streets. I mean, this has got to be a community process, the homeless and us trying to help each other. The homeless people need to have a little more respect for the fact, yeah, you may be homeless, but that doesn't give you the right to just be a pig and throw your trash everywhere. It's a safety risk, and as far as the health department, you know, look at all the sweeps we're doing. We're spending thousands of dollars to do sweeps, and the problem still continues. You guys don't even know how to manage money.
Okay, I just wanted to say I agree with Tim with the with helping the homeless. All the county's doing is taking them from one spot and putting them in another spot, and it's not working out when they don't have housing. So I totally agree with that. And I have my own outreach program that helps the homeless, and that's what I've been hearing is that the cops, all they do is harass them and harass them and harass them and take their stuff and put them in jail, and they get lost in the system, and then they get out of jail and they have nothing. That's all I have to say. The system does not work.
Well, I just wanted to say that you guys are doing a disservice to the middle class by wasting so much taxpayer money on trying to fix this homelessness problem that we have. I have to disagree with what Tim said. Part of what he said is not true. We have shelters, we have space available, we have the help. Some of these individuals just don't want the help. They want an easy life. They don't want to struggle. And by us giving them crutches and saying, oh, pity party, you know, we're going to try to help you. We've been having this problem for years. Your guys' help isn't really helping people. It's just wasting taxpayer money. You guys should be ashamed of what you guys are doing.
Thank you, Supervisor Askew. I just wanted to piggyback off of what Tim said and a section of any city, like allowing people to be, to live, to rest in a dignified and humane way isn't too much to ask. And there are other cities, I think it's San Jose or Sacramento, that have already tried that out, where their spaces are clean and well kept. But I don't believe that sweeps are the way. And I do hope that as the COCs come together, that they're able to provide those services before the 72 hours, and that just doesn't become a cycle of going into prison or into jail, coming out, not having stuff, and it doesn't need to be that way. And I just wanted to remind everyone that 13,500 of our students in Monterey County are homeless out of 75,000 or 175,000. So I just wanted to give that perspective as a formerly homeless mother with 2 small children at the time. And that was during COVID. I mean, it can get tough, and I just there's not enough services out there to service everyone. So if we could potentially go the other way and just have a dignified and sanctified space for homeless, then that might be an alternative. Thank you.
Homelessness and addiction are 2 separate issues. A lot of times people become addicted when they're out there on the streets with nowhere else to go, nothing to do, in despair. For one to say that just because you're homeless, homelessness is not the addiction and homelessness are not the same thing. It's 2 different issues. To criminalize someone for being homeless is absolutely ridiculous. I agree with what Tim was saying. I think the community needs to really pay more attention to a solution to the problem. And I work for a program where we house over 100 people, and they do great once given the opportunity to, get on their feet and not have to worry about whether they're going to rest their heads or their children are going to sleep.
West White Salinas, Monterey County Homeless Union. A friend of mine actually lost his mother's ashes like a couple weeks ago, and this was kind of a tussle between CHP and Salinas PD, because they were along South Main 101. The Caltrans operators told them to move over away from the fence. Not even 20 minutes later, the city come, say, why don't you take off? And then they lost all their possessions. So your partnerships, we have a leadership council, and it's good that Monterey County is looking out to make sure they get their funding squared away. But as other people have mentioned, how much money is being spent on sweeps? How much money is being mismanaged doing all that? And then we find out, well, obviously we can't do anything to help that. Salinas is going to close down the navigation center, so no more funding for that. You're losing half of your funding for Share Center likely. We're looking at more people on the street. And what's Salinas going to do? They're kind of trying to push as many people out onto your property, so it becomes your problem, not theirs. So maybe what you need to do is start going after your jurisdiction a little more than the public. What was a really good solution was Roberts Lake to Colonel Durham. That was a great, cheap, people provided their own housing, about 40 people in RVs, and we even had a shower. We were getting access to laundry. So, all this is cheap. Do a livability license or a minimal standard on a policy to pass people over. What does it take? If it's just tent and ground or vehicle and ground, it's not a blanket of trash, there's not litter everywhere, which of course when people do sweeps, they leave the litter behind. They take everything of value, but not the litter, because now when the next person comes, you did that. Lies. We don't clean up, we steal. We're robbing people as a policy. And what you're doing, H is the new N word. And that needs to stop, because everything we do, scapegoating. You point a finger, you got 3 pointing right back at you, so you better be triple sure about what you're talking about yourself. Because this is all scapegoating.
Thank you for your comments, Wes. We're out of time.
Stop the sweeps.
Thank you for joining us today. It sounds like, Roxanne, you didn't need any direction unless we wanted to change our current ordinance. There's no need, given that our ordinance exceeds what's required in the state ordinance in terms of providing for the needs of humane response to what the state would require us to do. So without that need to make changes, it sounds like Supervisor Alejo and myself are comfortable giving direction to keep our ordinance as is. And thank you again for that presentation and the comparison between the two. Luis, any other comments or questions,
None.
given the public comment we heard?
None.
None, okay, great. So with that, we'll receive this report and we can move on. We can now move on to item number 4. I won't get ahead of myself. And I think this is our final item for the day. This is to receive a verbal update on our current encampment resolution funding projects, or ERF projects. Again, we have Roxanne Wilson presenting.
Thank you so much. I will try to keep it as brief as possible, but there's a lot to report. There are 2,436 individuals that were counted in the homeless point in time count, in which 18% of those individuals were located in unincorporated areas of the county. Mostly those individuals were made up 4 encampments. One was in King City, Salinas River, one is in Soledad, Salinas River, the other one is Pajaro, which we're all very familiar with, and then another one is right outside of Salinas's jurisdiction. So my office had pursued 3 encampment resolution grants to serve the individuals that are currently in those encampments. That were or are currently in those encampments. And we were funded for all 3 that we pursued. King City, that one has been fully resolved and has not had people return since it has been resolved. All of those individuals are currently staying in a motel, and the supervisors may be aware that King City had fallen into a little bit of a bind when their developer Shangri-La had purchased the hotels. That was supposed to be permanent supportive housing, and then had later on foreclosed on the hotel in King City. King City then reached out to our office, asked us if the county would help, in which we did. And we rallied together many partners to try to salvage that permanent supportive housing project, while also maintaining the temporary sleeping arrangements of the individuals that were moved from the encampment. We were very successful in doing that, and King City is waiting any day now because we are currently in escrow and we are expected to close. So that project will take in all of the individuals that were inside of the motel. It is permanent supportive housing. I think it's important to note this is not shelter. The individuals, once they move in, they will no longer be considered homeless. They will be paying their fair share of rent, and there are vouchers that will be covering the difference, because we do understand that most of those individuals are chronically homeless, meaning that they have some sort of disability which may limit their ability to make the $1,700 to $1,900 that it takes for you to afford rent for a studio apartment. That one we're very excited about. The next one is the Soledad Salinas River encampment. We partnered with the city of Soledad to address a very long outstanding encampment that is right outside of their jurisdiction along the Salinas River. During the storms of 2023, we really did see how dangerous the Salinas River can get. I'm sure that many remember some of the incidents that happened in the Salinas River. So we had deployed outreach teams, and the city police officers and city community development went down to the encampment, started talking to people, trying to figure out if there was an interest for people to get services, in which we did hear that there is an interest. So the county pursued funding. We do have the capacity to manage grants. We were awarded that funding. We had temporarily moved everybody out of the encampment and onto city property for a provisional site. Those individuals are currently receiving services in this provisional site while we build a tiny village. That one is a shelter with supportive services. It is temporary, and we do plan on breaking ground within the next month to start building that tiny village of non-congregate units. Individuals will receive wraparound services, rapid rehousing, housing navigation, and all of those types of services to try to stabilize them and get them back into permanent housing of their own. And then the third encampment resolution grant that we received, was in partnership with the County of Santa Cruz to assist people who are living along the Pajaro River. That one has become challenged several times by appeals from a local neighborhood. However, we are anticipating to receive our building permit, hopefully this week or next week. We are hearing that they have no further comments to our design plans. So that one will take about 5 to 6 months for that 34-unit non-congregate low barrier navigation center to be built. In the meantime, we are working with the continuum of care for us to try to offer services to individuals that are raising their hand today, saying that they want services. We have, that started a couple of weeks ago, and we have found permanent housing solutions for about 5 individuals so far. There's a lot to be said about the complexities of the Pajaro River. In our records that we're collecting, the vast majority of individuals do have ties to the Santa Cruz County Social Services and Benefits. So far, I've only identified one person who's tied to Monterey County's benefits. So we are having to navigate, again, very complex, highly bureaucratic programs to make sure that people access. But regardless, there are several entities, I would say easily 7 or 8 agencies, including the 2 counties, that are meeting weekly to try to navigate these very difficult situations. Again, most of our services are in Salinas, Monterey, Marina, which is pretty far away from the Pajaro levee. But regardless, our local continuum of care did vote to prioritize these individuals for services for 90 days. And we are doing our best to try to get them connected as quickly as possible before that 90 days expires. And that concludes my, actually, one more. At the 4th encampment, I am working with the city of Salinas to see if there is a viable partnership there. If anybody watched the city of Salinas' city council meeting, they did talk about an empty asset that they have, in which we are seeing if they would be willing to allow us to use it for the 4th encampment in unincorporated areas. And that,
I was very concerned with the governor's budget because he didn't include any money in January and then in the May revise for a next round of the homelessness funding for the next fiscal year, and a lot of work went into creating these shelters and these encampment resolutions funds. It's just troubling that the state isn't keeping its commitment to continue to provide additional rounds of funding that help sustain some of these programs. As Roxanne said, just the project in Watsonville took a lot of work, and I'm just concerned that once we get some of these programs up and operating, that the state funding is going to dry up, making the ability to keep these programs functioning much more difficult or at risk of closing. And I hope that I provided a suggestion that I hope, like at least at the Share Center, that they should invite our legislators to come visit them, because these are the programs that will be at risk of closing if nothing is done to provide additional funding before the end of the legislative session, which I think this year ends in mid-September. But I think we have to our partners need to be proactive, whether they come or not. I think we got to extend the invitation to give them a tour so they could see who the people that we are assisting, because we have a window of opportunity. Otherwise, some of these programs that we work so hard to hopefully get across the finish line, many that Roxanne has been working miracles on, I'm just worried that they will be at risk not too long from now without additional state funding.
For Soledad, so far 97 tons of trash and debris have been removed. So that's people will physically see the benefits pretty soon of us providing services to individuals and getting them in alternative places to stay. And I do anticipate another easily 20 tons is probably being collected since the last time we weighed in. And then for the Pajaro levy, we are working with Community Action Board to establish a program where we pay people who are staying on the levee to clean up trash for incentives. So there's a lot of these are multifaceted. There's lots of things happening at the same time, but we're trying to figure out how people can see the benefits of bringing humanity to these encampments and working with the individuals to meet the needs of the community.
It's hard to understate the reality of the state budget and the impact that the loss of state dollars will have on the programs that we've worked so hard to put in place here locally and across the state. I think your suggestions, Supervisor Alejo, are prudent. We have a lot of folks on the call with us right now, and the significance of the state dollars that have allowed us to be able to move forward and make create solutions locally are significant. If we were to lose, if we do in fact lose those dollars, the harm will be felt locally. The harm will be felt across the state. And so to be able to, for us to be able to communicate and tell the story of how those dollars are being invested, what those stories look like, what those, how those lives are changed locally, I think there is opportunity in this short window of time that we have to do that. And it's with the service providers, it's with the coalition. And so I guess I'm gonna, you're sitting in sort of some of those spaces, I think with CSAC, they've been a really strong voice in communicating those realities. Roxanne, in the spaces that you're at, you guys have been, just really championing the work that needs to be done. It doesn't happen by chance. It happens only because we're investing in the right spaces and doing really intentional strategic work. Anyway, just reflecting on the comments that you both made and echoing the significance. There's no amount of county budget challenges that we're facing here locally as well. And the reality is that none of our cities nor the county will be able to backfill the full loss of state dollars if those end up disappearing. So I think our challenge is clear and our task is clear to communicate those challenges. So I want to say thank you to everyone who's joined us and shared your thoughts and feedback and ideas and suggestions and disagreements with us today. We appreciate all of it. But please do raise your hand so that we can make sure we cover everyone. I don't want to miss anyone.
Hi, Tim Heaven. So yeah, I think we were kind of confused when they initially released the HAP funding notice. It was 500 million. We thought it was going to be. We thought we had a win because they were going to do it. But then, come to find out when we read the document the next day, it was possibly for next year. So that leaves a lot of funding out there that we need, and I think it's important to realize that without this funding, like in our area, a lot of our programs are ran off this HHAP funding, and it's really like it's preventing people from falling back into homelessness. And so I think we need to really advocate and try to figure out a plan if they're not going to include it. When I went to meet with the governor and his like frontline staff, his cabinet members, I think Tim Burns, he threw out a deal like if we would support a camping ban, if they got the HAP funding, and that's kind of like just the idea of like what the governor's thinking, and it's so just illogical, but I don't know, it's just hard to talk sense into these state officials sometimes when they just don't care.
I thank you again. I didn't get my question answered. Why are the 3 motels shut down and boarded up?
And Captain, we typically,
Can I get an answer?
yeah, Captain, typically we don't do back and forth during public comment. I answer items that are within the items on the agenda. If you have questions, you're always welcome to follow up with staff outside of a board.
That is the
committee
agenda.
meeting.
That is the agenda. Why do we have 3 motels designed for the homeless that are now all boarded up? Why?
So we'll make sure that on the agenda, we can make sure we put an email address into the answers. And if you wanted to follow up directly with staff, I'm sure someone can provide more information. But it wasn't a part of a presentation today, so we're not able to answer questions during public comment.
Catherine, I'll answer that question for you. Any place where we put homeless or unsheltered people, they just end up destroying it. That's why we have these problems that we have. Or the solution should be Monterey County needs to be focused on building homes, not apartments, not low income anything, homes. We need more homes to decrease the value of all these other homes so that we can have a place where we can house people for good.
West Weisley's Monterey County Homeless Unit. You know, if this money does go away, I'm going to implore you the same thing I guess I already brought up, which is some kind of policy, a backup policy plan of like how do we get people to behave. You know, if you're worried about it being all litter and everything, then reward positive behavior. If folks are not causing a disturbance, then pass them over instead of robbing them for everything they got. It wouldn't be that hard to redirect behavior and reward positive behavior, and you would see night and day of all these stereotypes that you're worried about. You know, people could function inside their tent if they felt like they could not be harassed on a constant basis at any moment. You wonder where a lot of trauma comes from or why people want to be doped up. It's because we're not providing any yeses. We're giving them plenty of no's. What do you think is going to happen after you have no money for HAP? Are we going to increase funding to sweeps? Are we going to increase funding? So who's getting the paycheck? And whose human suffering is paying for that? Because it's a constant. It's like kick the can or piñata, you know, those candies. We're grabbing them, stuffing it in our pockets. That's human life right there. That's their life potential. And we are abusing people on a constant basis because we want to. Hey, if you ain't got no money, where's your protection money or rent? Well, then we can beat you up and take everything you got every single day. And it's your own problem because we got cheerleaders who just have no humanity or compassion in their soul. And then they get a claim to go to church, I bet you. You ain't got no Jesus. If we're a Christian nation at all, are we? Probably not. ICE are getting picked up. People are getting picked up by ICE right now. You know, if you have no documentation, and of course that's going to happen if you get swept, you have no ID, no medication, no sunglasses, prescription glasses. Those are things you're supposed to look for, but nobody ever does that. That's still constitutionally protected. But yeah, we're not going to do that. And then people can get rolled out and disappeared because they have no identification. It's going to be United States citizens, not just the illegals.
Roxanne, I know we didn't have this on the agenda, but I'll take the personal privilege of asking if you could just provide or an update. I know we had given direction at our last meeting to do the letter of support, or to direct the letter of support to go to the full board for the Seaside Home Key project, but the Seaside City Council wasn't able to direct that move forward. They hadn't received any communication from the developer as of the day before the city council meeting when they were asked to give that direction. So in the absence of any communication from the developer, it was difficult for the city council to direct forward action and take on the risk of a home key project without a developer that they had confidence in at that point in time. So there was quite a bit of public comment, and our CAO was able to be present to make public comment at that meeting. But thank you for the work that you did to bring it to this committee, and we appreciate the opportunity to weigh in. But with that, our next meeting is scheduled for August 18, 2025 in the Monterey room and via Zoom. I want to adjourn this meeting and thank everyone for taking the time to join us and participate and share your thoughts. We appreciate having you.